Hey, what's up followers? Dave here from CNC3D. So we're very excited to talk about the launch of our new CNC2D design suite, which is available within our CNC3D Commander software. So if we just click on the About button at the top here, so this relates to build 290 or later. So if the number you have here is 290 or later than that, then you will have access to this awesome new tool. So today's date is the 6th of February 2023, and we are looking at launching our CNC2D tool today. We're just recording this video, which will be available within the actual CNC2D tool itself. So first thing that we will do is we're just going to connect up to our machine. Now, it's not specifically a prerequisite for you to have to connect to your machine in order to use the tool, but there are some handy features that we've put in there that will allow us to basically automatically complete a project and send it directly through to our machine. So when you first do get the next update, you will notice the Create button will flash. Once you go into here, you'll see that CNC2D is now flashing down here. So if we click on this, now this has taken us into our main CNC2D window, and this is our little welcome window that we have here. So there are a couple of things here on the left hand side. You can choose to make a new project by clicking on this button here, or you can choose to open an existing project. There is a video tutorial button down the bottom here, which is actually a link to this current video that you're watching right now. So there's really no need for you to actually have to click on here. So let's just go ahead and click on New Project. And the first thing to do is to enter in a project name. So we're just going to leave it as the default here. Now for the job presets, in this current version of CNC2D, it's just going to create a blank project for you. But very soon in the near future, we're going to be integrating some presets for your machine, so you can very quickly and easily just have most of the things pre-done that you would possibly want to have on your project, and it will be specific to your machine. So let's just click on Create here. And we're going to go through some of the options that we have here. Now, it would be a good idea as a first-time user to, if you go up the top here to the right-hand corner, we have the Help button. And in here, we have a set of basically handy little keyboard shortcuts and things that you can do. So you're more than welcome to go through and read through here and basically apply some of these, like for example, the snap to grid function, being able to select or deselect shapes, and just the basic keys that allow you to do things. Now, again, this video tutorial button that's in here is actually a link to this exact video or an updated video in the future. So there's no need for us to click on there, but if you ever did want a refresher, you can always go into Help up the top and watch this video over again to help you out. So we'll just close out of here for now. And let's take a look at some of the options that we have across the top here. So the first section at the very top left is our project section. Now in here, the first option is this project. And if you go into here, this is where you can update the name of your project if you wish. You can also choose to create a new project, open an existing project, save your current project, save a copy of your project. So basically you wish to make a clone of it somewhere else. And then you'll notice there's this My CNC3D Cloud. Now, at this point in time, this service is not currently available, but basically what we've done is we've been listening to what a lot of you have been saying for a lot of our users that have our machines and that have our controllers. A lot of people are hobbyists. They know their machines very well, and what we're looking at is creating a series of tools that will make it very easy for you to be able to transition from being a hobbyist to basically using your machine as a business. So we're going to be working on that, and that will hopefully be available in the next update to Commander when there's more information. But basically we're looking at onboarding everyone through to our CNC3D Partners Network. And we'll go through a couple of those things in another video when we actually have it available. So at the moment, some of these things do not apply, but very soon they will. So that's basically the project section. Now, if you go into client, there's one option. Of course, this is the same thing as well too, which is part of our CNC3D business suite coming in the near future. So you'll just have to wait for that one to become available. Now, probably the most important thing to do is for you to actually go ahead and set up your job first. So over here, you can obviously choose the technology type of the job that you're doing. So you've got laser at the top here, which has your standard number of options that you would normally expect to have for a laser job. And you can go into plasma and you have all of your standardized plasma type options that you would expect to use for CNC plasma cutting. And then you can choose to do pen plotting or vinyl knife cutting, where you can choose to set the variables and the values for a pen or a knife type job. So feel free to choose the correct type job. Obviously, when you select it, it will just change it at the top here to the type of project. And then basically the next thing to do is for you to go ahead and set up your actual canvas itself. So we can leave this as a standard 600 by 600 mil, but this stock basically represents the size of the material that you're going to be working on to complete your task. Now the next option here is the feed rate. Now, this is how fast it will actually travel through your material for the type of tool that you've specified. So this value here will actually be retained that every time you go into a new project within CNC2D, it will automatically update this value. So as long as you're doing the same type of job, then you can just keep this value in here as a default. And alternatively, you can choose to change it and it will just remember this value. The same goes for your stock size. It will maintain a standard stock size, or you can choose to get it to be a particular size every time you launch it from within the settings menu over to the side, but we'll get to there in a moment. So the next option you obviously have is the export option. Now you've got an export G-code option, an export SVG option, and a get quotes option. At the moment, the get quotes option is also part of our CNC3D partners network, which will not be available until a little bit later. So we'll just OK out of that and we'll take a look over here on the right. We obviously have a grid here appearing on our canvas. Now you can choose to obviously disable this grid if you just want to be able to freehand draw. Alternatively, you can obviously choose your actual grid size. Now at the moment, the grid size is currently set to 10 millimeters by default. You can actually choose to change that to a different number if you wish. And basically the way that this 10 mil actually works is between all of these yellow spaces over here on your canvas where these lines are, that represents 10 millimeters in both the X and the Y plane. And your major grid lines, which are these blue lines, will always be a multiple of 10 of that. So you can choose to adjust your grid however you would like to suit your needs. And then basically you know that you'll always have 10 times that for your major grid. Now, we do have some easy zoom in and zoom out buttons at the top here. So if you want to, you can choose to go up in 100 increments all the way up to 700%. And of course, you can go all the way down to very, very small. Now, if you wanted to do this a little bit more precisely, you can actually hold the control key down. So while you have the canvas selected with your mouse, hold control and you can roll your mouse wheel and we'll roll it up or down in 10% increments. And so basically you can choose to dial in your zoom to get your canvas in the exact right position for you to be able to work on your shapes. Now we'll just take a quick look here at some of the settings. So if we click on settings at the top, the first thing is a general setting here, which asks you to choose. At the moment, there's only one option, which is when CNC2D first starts, do you want to launch the welcome window, which was our new project or open project window, or would you just like to launch straight into a new project, which will give you the ability to then, obviously through the project menu at the top here, you'll be able to just open an existing project if you wish, or just start a new one. Now, a few users have requested this as a handy feature, and that is the ability for you to be able to customize the way that the actual design environment looks. So everything within this entire canvas area here can be fully adjusted. So you can choose whatever color you would like it to be. We have actually experimented with this, and it is possible to make something with this grid here that looks really, really hard on your eyes. You can obviously choose and change individual colors by clicking on here and choosing a color. Alternatively, if you have made an error and you just wish to reset it back to normal, you can just hit reset colors here. And that will actually reset everything back to normal for you. So when you're happy, you can just hit save out of here to commit any changes. and you should be good to go from there. So we'll just cancel out of there for now, and we'll take a look on the left-hand side here where we have all of our tools. Now, down the very bottom in the center within CNC2D down here, when you hover over a button, it'll tell you exactly what that button actually does. So this is a rectangle, as you can see down the very bottom in the center. You've got a line, you've got an ellipse, you've got a pencil, you've got a path, you can import an image, you can import text, you can choose to flip something horizontally, you can choose to flip something vertically, so these buttons will do the horizontal or vertical flip. And you'll notice that some of these buttons here are not currently enabled. And the reason for that is CNC2D is not in a current state to be able to use these buttons over on the side here. So we've just locked them out, but we're going to go through and explore those today. So the first thing to do is obviously adding some shapes down onto your canvas. Now, what you can do, say for example, we'll click on this rectangle. You can obviously choose to click on here, and you can choose to drag out this shape onto your canvas to any particular size you would like, because you can always modify it later. Now, let's say for example, and then obviously you can choose to drag to here as well. So we'll just move this out of the way. Now you'll notice by default, it's automatically reselected the pointer on the left-hand side. If you wanted to repeat a whole series of different shapes, so say for example, if you needed 8 rectangles down, you can click on the rectangle tool or any of these shape tools here, and then you can hold down the Alt key and you can actually drag out as many of these shapes as you actually require on your canvas. When you're done, you can let go of the Alt key and then it's automatically gone back to our pointer tool, which will now allow you to do selection and basically selecting either individual shapes or selecting multiple shapes. So that's basically how you go about adding shapes. Now what we can do is we can obviously select these. We can choose to drag shapes around and move them wherever we'd like. You can hit the delete key on your keyboard and that will clear those shapes there. And so then basically what you have here is you can have a whole bunch of different ones. We'll put down an ellipse. Let's put down a line. This is a polyline, which basically, if you just left click and start to drag, you see it'll position all of these points on here to make just a regular line. When you let it go, you can see that it's obviously created that line on there when we deselect the shape just by clicking on a blank area. And then basically you also have a path. Now to use a path, you can click on to the path tool there, and you simply left click and add as many points wherever you would like on your canvas, and then right click to actually complete the shape back to the start. Now what you can do, obviously these are paths, so this is all a sequence of straight lines essentially that are going to a different place. Now what you can actually do is you can click on any one of these points here, and you will notice, actually even before we do that, on the right hand side here, you'll see that every single shape that's in here has a series of properties. So when you have one shape selected, you can specifically edit the values of that specific shape. So at the moment, this is called shape 10. Let's just call this pathy. And then if you want to, you can choose to position your shape based on any particular position that we have showing in here. So for example, from the bottom left, you can choose to position this at say 100. And we'll make this 100. And you can see that that's definitely put it here. Now, as your mouse moves around the canvas, you will notice down here in the bottom right, while we're dragging over the canvas, it'll actually tell you where your mouse position currently is. Now, just take note that the 0, 0 position is actually down the bottom left-hand corner here. And then it goes outwards from there, just as you would expect most standard CNC machines to operate. So that is essentially where everything has its basis from this 0, 0 point down here. And then obviously every shape has a series of selection rectangles around it, or a selection rectangle with these easy drag handles so you can easily make an adjustment on these shapes. Now what you can do obviously is select another shape out of the list here, and you can see it has a name as well. Let's just call this pencil line. And we're going to go through and we're going to call this ellipse. And we'll call this liney, and we can call this recti. And now what you can do, obviously, we've got multiple shapes here. Down the very bottom corner, by default, you're in the Properties tab. You can click on the Explorer tab down the bottom here, and it will actually show all of your shapes that exist on your canvas. Now, any of the ones that are currently selected in red are the ones that are actually currently highlighted. So if we click on here, you can see it's deselected all of those. As we click on each one of these shapes, you can see it actually selecting them on the right-hand side and making them red. That obviously includes if you just select a couple of shapes. Now, what you can do as well while you're in here, if you just click normally on any of these, it will deselect all of the other shapes except for that standard shape or that default shape that you've clicked on. But if you hold the Control key down while you're clicking on these, you can obviously choose to deselect a shape, and you can choose to select multiple shapes. And also you can choose to obviously toggle them between being selected or not. Now, any particular shape, you can choose to arrange the orientation of the shape in here. So the way that it works at the moment with our current G-code engine is we are going to be doing a particular shape based on the order with which they appear in here. So the one that's closest to the top is the shape that will actually be done first. So if we wanted to do this rectangle first, we could just simply move that to the front and that will put it to the top. And if you want to move something back, you can choose to just move a shape to the back and it will arrange this orientation. So just be mindful that depending on the particular order in here, it will always start doing the first shape is the one at the top, then it will do each shape respectively down from there. So that basically covers the sort of extent of the current Explorer that we have within CNC2D. It's a handy way for you to be able to basically easily select your shapes, and then obviously if you want to, you can click on the Properties tab and you have your properties information. Now, let's just go through and make a bit of space here on our canvas. So one of the things that we have added is we've tried to make things rather simple. So we'll focus on this one path shape. So we can obviously choose to expand and reduce it. And what you will notice is that each one of the points in here represents obviously one of the points of the shape. Now you can click on any one of these and you'll notice that on the right hand side here, because we have a single point selected, we can actually choose to dial in exactly where that particular point will be. So for example, this one's 307 at the moment. We can make that 400 if we want. And then we can also adjust this value here and we'll make that 400 too. And that has actually put that perfectly on that 400 mark. Now, what you can do with any one of these points that appear in black is if it is already a line segment, so you will notice the point type underneath here, you can choose to make something a curve if you wish at that point. So you can easily just toggle between these in order to do that. And if you want to, you can make it a move path, or you can choose to make it a close path. As you can see, that's produced pretty undesirable results. So what you can do is you can just go back to line, or you can go back to curve, and it will automatically convert it. Now, to make things nice and simple, if you were to click on a particular line, so say for example, this point just here, as you can see, that's just a regular line segment there. If you double click on any of these points, it will automatically toggle between it being a curve and it being a line, and then you can adjust these points in order to create the specific shape that you're after. Again, if this already has a curve associated to it, you can double click on it and it will go back to being a line segment. Now, what you can also do is you can obviously choose to click on one of these points. As you know, you can adjust the point location. We're going to make this a curve here, and we can take a look here on the right hand side. You can see now that it is showing us where our curve handles actually are. So you can precisely dial in exactly where you would like these curve handles to be. You can of course choose to hold your left mouse button down and drag them, and obviously you can see the shape is dynamically changing as you move that point. But sometimes you might want to do an adjustment, so it's easy enough for you to do that in here. So we can make this say 200, and we'll make this 420, And you can see that it's specifically moved that shape exactly where we wanted it to be. So that is indeed correct for where the actual positioning is. Now, what we'll do down the bottom here, we're just going to move our B2 handle. So let's go 200 there. That's currently 345. Let's make that 350. And we've also then gone ahead and moved this handle to that position. So you do have full control over the location of all of these points and their associated curves on here. Other than that, it's really up to your own creativity. It will take a little bit of time for you to get used to how to manipulate these handles in order to make the type of curve that you're looking for. As you can see, that's a relatively close representation of the type of shape that we're trying to make. So what we can do now is we can take a look at some of the other features that we have. So let's just make this a little bit smaller. We're just going to drag this out of the way. And so let's just go ahead here and take a look at this text import function here. So what we've done, and we are looking at making this better in the future, you can choose any particular font that you would like, and we're going to attempt to vectorize that font. So let's choose Broadway here. And you can see it looks a little bit rough in the visual representation. Now you can actually fix this by adjusting a few things on the side here to get the desired result that you're actually looking for. So feel free to play with some of these settings to get the best type of result that you're looking for. For the purposes of this, we're just going to import it as it is right now. So let's just go import text. And you can see that it's created it in here as a path. Now we can choose to expand this out if we wish, and we can change the orientation. Again, you'll notice that we have these points that are sitting within here. And basically you can see that there's obviously a curve associated with this one. But for all intensive purposes, you have the ability to cut this actual text out of your job. Now, what we can also do, and we'll just delete this off our canvas because we don't need it, is we obviously have the ability to import either an SVG file, which will take each individual segment of the SVG and import that element into CNC2D. Alternatively, we do use the same procedure. So we're going to choose this raster image here, which is a JPEG. And we have the same option to be able to import this little Snorlax drawing directly into our project too. So let's just go ahead and import this now. And as you can see, it's converted that JPEG image into a vectorized version of itself as a trace outline. And then now you can choose to manipulate it any way that you would like. So we've got our Snorlax here right now sitting on our canvas. Let's just select this shape here and delete that. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other options that we have. So obviously you can choose to duplicate shapes if you wish. So we'll just go Control C and Control V, and it's created another little Snorlax for us here. And if we go Control V again, it's obviously created another one. And now we have 3 of them. Now, the reason why I've put down 3 of these is so we can take a look at some of the other functions that we have over on the left here. So if we select all 3 of these together, we can choose to obviously flip these upside down. You can flip them horizontally, flip them vertically, and it's really up to you. It's just going to go through and adjust all of those for you, so you can choose to do them individually. You can also choose to do that specifically with just the one shape if you wish. So let's just go through and just make a little bit of variety here. And we'll flip this one the other way, but we'll have it facing that way instead. So you can choose to adjust these however you would like. Again, you can choose to do a group selection on here and drag them around to wherever you'd like. Let's say, for example, you want to make them to be exactly in the same line from the center. You can click on this option here and it will perfectly align them so that all of their middles match horizontally. Now, if we were to have them, say, spaced apart this way and select all of these, we can also choose to then align them vertically as well, and it will move all of those shapes so that they're all in line together. Now, as you can see, we've currently got 3 shapes selected. So the one in the middle here is definitely closer to this one here. So what we can use is we can choose to use this function over here, which will basically space things horizontally or vertically spaced apart from each other. So I've just gone and clicked on that button now, and you can see it's created this one to be directly in the middle of these. Now you can actually do this in multiples. So if I add another one onto our canvas here, And we're going to move this across now, and we'll move these around a bit. You can go ahead and select all of these, and then you can choose to basically align them either horizontally or vertically. And so that has automatically created the right spacing. If you wish to make them all the same, we can just click on this button here and it will align them all perfectly to the middle. Now that is basically how you can manipulate and obviously adjust some of your shapes on here. There are these tools here on the side. So we can go through and take a look at some of the other features that we've added. So this is still quite early and this is an alpha release of CNC2D, but we're going to talk about how we can do some more complex shapes within here. So let's start with an ellipse. So we're going to show you how you can basically make a flange right now. So say for example, you're going to be joining two bits of pipe together and you require them to be bolted. So we've just put this ellipse down onto our canvas. Over here on the side, you can obviously choose to manually dial in the size of a particular shape. You can choose to lock that size if you wish by clicking on here and having the lock symbol enabled. We're just going to leave it unlocked for now, and we're just going to make our size here. Let's go 100 and 100. And then basically what you can do is you can essentially over here on the side is you can click on these two options. Now the first one here is what we call a shape repeater. So if we click on this, what it will do is it will create a series of shapes around the selected shape, which will be from the edge of the selected shape. So let's say, for example, we want to make a flange. Let's put number of shapes in here as 1. And we're going to create a spacing on here. So this is from the edge. So let's make it 50 mil and we'll go. And as you can see now, it's created this other circle or this other ellipse around this central one. And then let's say, for example, we want to easily add in the bolt holes for our flange. We can actually go and use the ring tool on the side here. So if we click on this, now it's going to ask you how many shapes you would want. So in the case of a flange, that would be the amount of bolts that you're planning on having in there. So let's say, for example, we'll put 8 in there. Now it's asking you the distance from the center. So that would be the distance from the center of this ellipse just here in the middle. So we already know that this ellipse here is 100 by 100 mil, and we know that this one on the outside is 50 mil bigger on the outside. So the distance from the center that we would like to make this, which should be the radius, in order to get our bolt holes right in the middle, is going to be 75 mil. So let's dial in 75 mil into here. Now you need to choose obviously the size of the bolt holes that you are going to be using. So let's say, for example, if we're using 12 mil bolts, we're probably going to want 12.5 mil holes just to give us a little bit of tolerance there. So let's put in 12.5 into here and we'll hit go. Now, as you can see, that has perfectly created a flange for us. Now, if you wanted to, you could select this whole shape, go Control C and then Control V, and you can see it's created a full copy of this one so that you can essentially make both of your actual flanges in one go for both sides of your pipe, and both of them will be perfectly spaced and basically ready to go for you. So if you had a plasma cutter, you could be cutting these out of steel, or if you're using a fiber laser, you can definitely cut it out as well. So that's basically a very easy way that you can make flanges using these two tools. Let's just go here and delete these shapes off. And what we're going to do now, we're just going to put down another shape on our canvas here. It doesn't need to be anything particularly accurate. And we're going to take a look at this shape copier tool. So if we click on this, you'll see it'll open this window. Now, what you can do is you can very easily duplicate shapes in any particular direction, and you can choose your spacing. So by default, the default distance is 0. And then to add multiple copies of a shape, all you need to do now is just click on one of these arrows. So for example, we can click up and you can see it's creating more of those. You could obviously choose to, say for example, add another one this way. You could choose to go down. And let's say, for example, that you want to do a multiple of these. You can see there's no gap really between these shapes. So it's right next to the shape. If we click on done here, we can actually select, say for example, all 4 of these and click on our shape copier. And then we can just create multiples of these as we go. And as you can see, it's beautifully positioned all of these on our canvas now. And so that is the general basics of what it's like to use CNC2D. That's covered some of the features that we pretty much have up to date with where we are as of the 6th of February 2023. And hopefully it gives you a pretty good introduction to using some of the basic features here. We're just going to take a quick look, see if there's anything here that we've really missed. So obviously the one thing that we do have over the side is the angle. Now you can take any shape that you would like. This applies to any shape within here. And you'll notice that every shape has this center crosshair. So you've got a couple of options. On the right here, you could choose to enter in an angle right now, and it would be based to rotate from the center of the shape. Alternatively, you can choose location. Now, if you want to quickly rotate shapes without needing to do this, you have a couple of choices. So if you double click, so without the rotate circle showing, if you double click the middle of the shape where the crosshair is, you can see we now have a red dot. Now, as long as the red dot is showing, you have the ability to transform this shape from any one of these corners, wherever you see the round cursor icon. Now, at the moment, the rotate position is set to the center of the shape. So if we drag our mouse, you can see that it's definitely rotating that shape around the middle. Now, sometimes what will happen is you don't actually want to rotate it from the middle. So what you can do is you can actually drag this particular point to wherever you would like it to actually rotate the shape from. So say, for example, if we put it in this position here, we can actually then go through and we can drag it around here and it will specifically rotate from that start point. Now you may notice that there is in fact a separate rectangle that is around the outside of this shape. And the reason for this is because the positioning over here on the right hand side directly relates to this rectangle around here, regardless of the rotation of the shape itself. So if we were to position this shape at, say, for example, let's go 200 and 200, you can see that it's definitely put it here with the bottom left being at exactly 200 and 200, and it just makes it easy for you to be able to position your shapes. Now, while you're on here with this rotate circle, if you're not in the center of the shape, if you double click on this point here, it will take it back to the center of the shape where the rotation occurred from. And then if it's right in the center and you double click on it, it will actually dismiss the actual rotate circle from the center there. So the easiest thing you can do while it is showing, you can obviously freehand rotate. If you specifically want to dial in a particular angle, you can definitely do that. So say you wanted to do, say, 57 degrees, you can choose to rotate that from the middle. Now you will notice that you're not able to specifically dial in the location while this has a rotation. It'll always be from the center. So what we can do is we can reset this to 0, and you'll see now that you can choose where the actual rotate start point can be selected from. So instead of having to rotate as an offset from the center of the shape, you can actually dial in a specific location. So we could say put 100 in here, and we could put 100 in here, and you can see that it's perfectly moved our shape or our rotate start point to here for you to then be able to do any type of adjustments that you would like, and it will rotate from that position there. Now, this rotation applies to all shapes within your project and basically will apply to really anything. It will maintain and save that rotation value, but whenever you make a change to a rotate start point, it will always have to reset its original rotation point. So just be aware of that when you do make changes. It's usually a good idea to set up the rotation first and then actually apply the rotation to the shape. So let's say, for example, you're pretty happy with this project here. You've obviously got a couple of options. You can choose to save your project. So let's say we want to save this. So by default, it will save it as the name of your project. So we'll just say yes there. Now, if you want to, you can choose to go up here to export, and you can choose to export the SVG file. So by default, it will do that. Alternatively, you can choose to export the G-code file. So let's go ahead and just save this here as our new CNC2D project Plasma. And it's been saved and connected to machine. So because in our main Commander window, we were already originally connected to our machine, we can actually automatically upload it in order for you to be able to run it. So if we just say yes here, so successfully saved on the SD card, and you can see back in our main Commander window that it's definitely uploaded it straight to our controller automatically, ready for you to get started to actually run the job. So that pretty much summarizes all of the features that you do have within our current CNC2D tool. We really hope you guys do enjoy it. It is going to be the basis for future work. At present, probably one thing to mention as well, our G-code engine we are working on it and developing it, but at the moment we haven't actually set it up so that you can basically exclude areas that are outside of the canvas. So for example, if I was to, let's just do a copy of this shape and we'll do a couple of pastes on here. And so we have a few shapes. So obviously we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 shapes. Now, if we were to even slightly have any of these shapes appearing off our canvas, so we'll just move a few around here. So there is a warning currently about this. It will attempt to complete doing any particular shape. So if we go up the top here to export and go export G-code, what we'll actually do is we will warn you exactly how many shapes are not currently visible. So in this current alpha release, for example, with this shape that we have here, it looks like it should cut off at this point, but it will actually continue out beyond this boundary to complete it. So just be aware about where you choose to position shapes on your canvas. Some of them may be outside of the actual boundaries, and it will attempt to cut those shapes. As we improve on our G-code engine, we eventually will have that so that it doesn't actually do that. But for now, it's a relatively simple thing. So if you do ever see that warning message, we will select all of those shapes which are conflicting with the canvas over on the side here for you to be able to choose to investigate that. So that is pretty much it, guys. Other than that, we really hope you enjoy using this tool. We wanted to get a good design suite started for us to go to 2D. At the moment, we only support basic profiles. We don't support doing any sort of fill or anything like that. But as we develop with our project, then we're going to continue on adding more and more awesome stuff. So thank you for your time today, guys. I really hope this has been helpful for you, and we really hope you enjoy using our new CNC 2D tool. All right, have a great day.